the breaking news of the day is Tucker Carlson putting out a 5-minute video, give or take, suggesting that the CIA had been spying on him and his text messages, and that they might be preparing a criminal referral for the DOJ. We'll see if the first deep state arrest that comes out of the DOJ is Tucker Carlson. I should have said deep state is going to be Tucker Carlson. Let's see if it would just be the funniest thing on earth in a cynical way if they actually do something with Tucker, but not with anybody else within the deep state, Russiagate, January 6th, whatever. He put out a video saying, I don't know how I forget now how he discovered that they allegedly did it, and that they might be referring a criminal complaint to the DOJ on the basis of FARA violations. You get the Laura Loomers of the world, and I'm a little surprised that some other agencies, other journalists and journalistic entities jumping on board with this. You just say he's guilty. He has to be guilty of something if he's texting Iranian officials trying to get an interview. Exactly like they said, they, the left, Democrats, fake news when Tucker was trying to arrange for an interview with Putin. And because the conservatives sort of had more against that war, they were sort of more inclined to say it's outrageous to try to go after Tucker for trying to schedule an interview with Putin. And that when Putin gave him that gift, that was like somehow espionage if he's bringing it back to America. People were sort of outraged a little bit then, at least on the right. Now they're jumping on the bandwagon saying he has to be guilty of something. He has no FARA violations. If you're Laura Loomer, you're suggesting Logan Act violations as if he's representing the United States of America to Iran. And you'll tell me what you think. I thought that maybe there's a legitimate possibility for why the CIA or some intelligence, Secret Service, would be spying on Tucker. They know that he might be trying to schedule an interview with some Iranian officials. He's meeting with the president, and they want to make sure that he's not a national security threat to President Trump, or, inadvertently even transmitting information or allowing for the spying on Trump. Maybe they hack his phone, maybe they put whatever. So maybe there's some legitimate reason for which they might be spying on him or trying to get his text messages. You say no, that there would never be any. Well, you'll answer the question. Is there any potential legitimate reason for which they would, in fact, need to spy on Tucker, given his proximity to and connections and access to the president?
The CIA has no legal authority to spy on anybody in the U.S., least of all U.S. citizens in the U.S. You often see that referenced in films and movies, but that is part of the CIA charter. So the CIA has no authority whatsoever to be reading his text, reading his emails, doing anything, period. Doesn't matter if they suspect criminal activity. They have no business doing it. They have no legal authority to do that. The FBI could, but if the FBI met the legal standards for doing so, which depends on what it is that they're looking at as to whether it's reasonable suspicion or probable cause. But the CIA has no domestic authority whatsoever inside the United States to spy on U.S. citizens ever.
Well, if we've learned one thing from the Russiagate hoax, is that if they're targeting an international asset and then they tangentially get Tucker Carlson in that. So let's just say that the
NSA, that's the National Security Agency, which can basically they intercept communications to foreign people under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which still requires FISA warrants to target any individual. And if it's a U.S. individual, it has to meet certain standards. Again, that wouldn't be the CIA. Well, so what he is saying is the CIA is acting lawlessly in violation of their own charter and rights, as well as their own authority. Outside of that authority, and we'll get to. Ratcliffe. One of the people implicated in the antitrust scandal is Ratcliffe. Is deputy counsel who we know, Michael Ellis, who used to be counsel at Rumble. He keeps getting implicated in these scandals. He was implicated in trying to cover up the Russiagate scandal by doctoring documents to give to Tulsi Gabbard, according to public reports. And now he shows up connected to the antitrust corruption that's taking place at scale. And now there's an implicit allegation by Tucker Carlson, because Ellis would be the one directly involved in legally trying to authorize. He can't. It would be him involved in illegal spying on U.S. citizens and U.S. journalists, which they have no business doing. So what he's disclosing is patently illegal, period. End of story.
Well, our above average community at Local says they're using Tucker to spy on Iranian agents, Iranian officials. Is that a possibility?
They still can't go through U.S. They can't be active inside the domestic United States to spy anywhere in the U.S., period. That's a territorial limitation. And then they have an additional limitation if it's a U.S. citizen. You combine it, the CIA couldn't do that. The NSA could be gathering intelligence and information of contact communication to a foreign source, assuming that it was targeting the foreign source, not Tucker, and assuming that they met certain FISA obligations and limitations. And so what's Trump busy doing? He's trying to reauthorize the Patriot Act, by the way, and all of the illicit surveillance. It's one of his many promises he's walked back on of late. So to me, there's no legitimate legal purpose that the CIA can be spying on an American journalist engaging in American journalism from U.S. shores. There isn't. The NSA could be intercepting Iranian communications, but it has to be incidental, not intentional, as to Tucker Carlson. And that's still the NSA, not the CIA. And there's still certain FISA obligations they have to admit, because all of this is always subject to the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So the Fourth Amendment still applies. People tend to forget that there's somehow you could statutorily exempt the Fourth Amendment. There isn't. Not only that, there couldn't be anything they're concerned about with Trump saying, because that's up to Trump. Tucker's not a government employee. He's not subject to confidentiality rules or classification rules. So anything Trump said beyond Trump, there's nothing that Tucker could tell anybody he wanted, what it was conversation with was Trump. There's nothing about that would be government secrets, because at the moment Trump shared it with him, it was no longer a government secret because he de facto declassified it. So we do have concerns about whatever Jared Kushner's doing. Apparently Witkoff was carrying around some Israeli pager or something that they gave him. I was like, what? I mean, that's where the spying is occurring. It's not occurring by Iran. It's not occurring by Tucker Carlson. It's occurring by the government of Israel, implicating high-ranking officials. We now know Witkoff lied about what took place in the negotiations, according to the mediator from Oman, about what communications took place during the negotiations. So they're just compounding scandal after scandal after scandal and trying to harass and intimidate Tucker Carlson, which is what this is just revealing more of their illicit activities. What happens when war happens? Whenever war happens, bad things result. It's very rare that great things result.
I was just looking up some historical examples of CIA spying on, gathering data. You have Operation Chaos, MK Ultra, and that was supposed to have been resolved under the Church Committee. But was it in 2022, Senators Ron Wyden and Martin Heinrich revealed via classified documents that the CIA operated a secret bulk collection program, searching data for Americans' information without warrants or full congressional oversight. Backdoor searches of databases often collected overseas, but including U.S. persons' communications. Critics, ACLU, Brennan Center, argue this effectively spies on Americans. So there hasn't been, in recent memory,
not spying domestically. Like even Chaos and MK Ultra and all the rest was not domestic spying. It was mind control operations, things like that. So that's what I said. It would be blatantly illegal. There'd be no legal justification for it whatsoever. And my guess is that they either tipped off the press that tipped off Tucker, or somebody who spotted the illegality and let Tucker know the illegality was occurring. But this is the scandal is not going to incriminate Tucker Carlson. The scandal is going to incriminate the Central Intelligence Agency of Ratcliffe and Counsel Michael Ellis, who better start waking up and paying attention and quit being involved in these corrupt scandals. Because if he thinks he's immune, guess again, Mike.
Well, I mean, it's that if they ever get into power again, they're going to come after everybody. There will be no friends in this administration. But is it possible that Tucker was using words either loosely or improperly, and it was in fact the FBI or Secret Service that was, digging into?
Well, it wouldn't be the Secret Service, because that would be a threat to the president himself. There's no basis for that. So they don't have lawful authority for that sort of thing either. All this would have to go to the FBI. So it would have to be run through the FBI and the Justice Department, not through the CIA. And what Tucker disclosed was that the FBI was not initially part of this at all. So that this was just the CIA acting rogue, spying on U.S. citizens and U.S. journalists. And now we're trying to escalate it to the thing that didn't make sense is I suspect this is Laura Loomer, maybe also spreading fake news and information. In other words, you may have the CIA involved, but the CIA, they're going to make a criminal referral? The CIA has no grounds to make. They're going to make a criminal referral that details their illicit spying? There's no basis for that at all.
I did look up
that
CIA.
Part of it didn't make sense to me. So that told me that the source was somebody that was like Laura Loomer trying to spread false news. If they're actually stupid enough to put their illegal spying in a referral to the Justice Department, they're even dumber and more corrupt than I thought. So now people said, is there some FARA violation? I love that people say this is Tucker's working for Qatar, connected to Iran. By the way, Qatar is currently getting attacked by Iran. So this idea is like these people can't even put 1 and 1 together to equal 2. Some of the dumbest human beings on the planet. But if you look at FARA, I have long been a critic of FARA, passed during in the build-up to World War II, 1938, I believe, to target supposed Nazi propagandists in the United States. It was mostly due to the fact there were a lot of Germans in America who weren't gung ho about us going to war with their homeland, ancestral homeland again. That's what that was really about. But the law was considered so constitutionally dubious that before Mike Flynn, I think there'd been 6 cases in its entire 80-year history, 90-year history. So the FARA law is really to deal with lobbyists, people who are literally acting as an agent of somebody else. If it's their own opinion, it doesn't count. So you have to be an agent of a foreign principal, and then you have to register. It's not illegal to do it. You just have to register. And if you don't register, then you're subject to a 5-year federal felony. The foreign principal needs to be a government, a political party, or someone who is, at a minimum, not a U.S. citizen acting on behalf, for a foreign government, foreign principal. In order for you to be an agent, you have to be under their ordering, direction, or control.
Well,
principal. It goes back to old school principal agent law rules. So if you're acting on your own accord, and by the way, there's a specific exemption that states that also you have to not be acting independently. You have to not be simply stating your own views. You have to be acting as the alter ego of the foreign principal, and it has to not be for religious purposes, scholastic purposes, academic purposes, scientific purposes, or news gathering purposes. So FARA has absolutely no application to the Tucker situation at all.
It drives me nuts because I'm not an American attorney. I can read things and I can sort of understand the precedent. And I don't know how many people have been convicted under FARA. The Cuban Five was one of them, where the Cuban Five, also known as the Miami Five, 5 Cuban intelligence officers who were arrested in September '98. Later convicted in Miami, conspiracy to commit espionage, yada, yada, yada. The Cuban government acknowledged that the 5 were intelligence agents in 2001 after denying it for 3 years. It said they were spying on Miami's Cuban exile community, not the U.S. government. So when we're talking, this is the example of FARA violations where they were acting for and on behalf of a foreign government as agents, as covert employees. Tucker Carlson, whether or not he espouses views that, I don't know, even benefit Qatar or benefit Iran because he doesn't support the war, is not an agent, and he's not lobbying the government either. What has to go into lobbying?
Something that's not his own independent opinion. In other words, you have to be. I'm saying this because I'm literally just the alter ego of a foreign government or foreign principal, and that's not what's happening at all. And so and even if it were, it says even if you're acting as an agent of a foreign principal, if the reason you're doing it is religious, scholastic, academic, art, or news gathering. If you're in the news gathering business, then you're exempt from the law, from the registration requirement. So this only applies. It applies potentially to people like Laura Loomer, because she may be getting money from the Israeli government or Israeli citizens in order to propagate Israeli propaganda here in the United States. She's already been identified in 2 scandals in just the last 2 weeks. She's been illicitly lobbying for pardon activity without registering as a lobbyist, without disclosing that she's acting as an agent for these criminal scumbags, that she's tricking the Trump administration into pardoning, working with Arthur Schwartz. And she was identified by Tucker Carlson running a scam for a bogus business that was ripping off old people thinking that they were investing in gold. So she's been involved in 2 criminal scandals, according to published reports and investigative reporting in just the last 2 weeks. And I have no doubt she's taking money in one way, shape, or form from the Israeli government or those that are Israeli citizens who are Israel first people. Her confession through projection filter makes Laura Loomer the foreign agent who should be criminally prosecuted for FARA violations, if anybody should.
It's from the New York Times article. Take it for what it's worth, because I don't trust the New York Times. But we haven't heard boo from Laura on this. Pardon industry offers rich offenders a path to Trump. Here we say Mr. Schwartz has not been shy about sharing the strategy behind his clemency campaign with other inmates. So they knew he had paid multiple people to try to get the job done, according to two people familiar with it. Nearly $1 million went to right-wing operatives who claim to have worked with Laura Loomer, a social media provocateur who has the ear of Mr. Trump to advocate for Mr. Schwartz's release. You go down here. Berkman and Wool, who also privately indicated that they enlisted Ms. Loomer to assist with the Schwartz clemency push. I should say she believes it should be done. In an interview with The Times, Loomer said Berkman and Wool had nothing to do with her decision to champion Mr. Schwartz's cause, and that she was not paid by the lobbyists or Mr. Schwartz. While she acknowledged that she is close to Mr. Wool, Ms. Loomer said Mr. Schwartz's case was brought to her attention by a group of chat related to Jewish causes. All right, whatever. It's out there, and nobody's making it up.
She's responded to Tucker's investigative report about her promoting a gold scam in scheme. And I have no doubt that if a full vetting would show that she should be a FARA agent, probably should be probably should have registered as a lobbyist in a wide range of respects, given that she's communicating directly with members of the Trump administration for interests that she has not disclosed she's registered as a lobbyist for. And I mean, and then remember that we know that a bunch of people are getting paid by the Israeli government, but we don't know who it was. Those all should have been disclosed in the FARA report. And with criminals like this, just do a confession through projection as a filter. And what you will find is what they're accusing others of is what they are guilty of. So I suspect Laura Lehu Zahur is the only criminal in this story.
So far as out, Logan Act is even more patently preposterous.
Oh, it's asinine. Okay. Absolutely.
And then there was I got to bring it up because I'm just sort of shocked at who's reposting this stuff. This is from Dave Hale. I know that I've had my issues with Dave Hale. I remember that name and that face. Calls himself America First, provides material support to enemy of America during war. I mean, I'm asking a question I know the answer to. There's zero evidence he provided any support whatsoever, unless that support consists of being, generally speaking, anti this particular war.
Yeah, and this often happens. These fake patriots, these people who are a damnable disgrace to American history. The blood of the founders quite literally runs through my veins. So when I hear these hypocritical frauds who believe worshiping a politician and whoring for war makes them more American than people like me, you're the bastards that probably never should have been led into this country and your ancestors into this country in the first place. You are a disgrace to the founders of this country. We were founded on the principles. Read George Washington's farewell address. Read John Quincy Adams' speech on the 4th of July in the 1820s that said, we do not go abroad searching for monsters to destroy. We should not be aligned with our allies to such a degree we find such impassioned support of, leading us into unjustifiable and inexplicable wars. And these war whores, pretending they're the most American, are the least American and are the traitors to the American cause and the American Constitution, if any exist. Like that scumbag.
Look at this is amazing. This is what it means to have a flipping memory. Look at this. So back in the day, he said literally the most un-American thing you can possibly post. This was recently, relatively anti-Trump post. It's un-American to post a joke. You better go back to China. No comedy allowed here. Where's the other one here? It's the last one I want to see. What was this one about? If this was 2024's Republican ticket, they would win 60% of the popular vote. And I wrote, it would also not be a Republican ticket at that point. Holy crab apples. This guy seems to have always been anti-Trump and now is...
Oh, exactly. All the neocons that are masquerading as MAGA, that have captured the definition of MAGA, were long-standing Trump haters and are long-standing war whores who are at core anti-American. That's what they really are. And they pretend to go around waving the flag. Reminds me of CCR's song about fortunate ones, waving the flag until it's time for their son to go overseas. What is it? We've got 13 dead Americans already, probably more that they haven't even reported. Hundreds in hospitals in Germany and elsewhere. For what? For Israel. That's why they're there. And being critical of it makes you more of an American, not less of one.
Well, I'll only push back on people are going to say, Barnes, you gone off the rails with Israel, where you used to be called a Zionist and now you're not called a Zionist. This is for, on the one hand, it's quite clearly for to assist Israel. They've stated as much, but some are just going to argue it's for the military-industrial complex, the forever wars, the Adelson donors.
Too. It's all the same war whores that are letting American blood be spent for their profits. And that's not an American tradition at all. It's foreign to our constitutional history. It's foreign to the American founders. It's foreign to anybody who is a deeply pro-American individual. But they will always masquerade as the uber patriots. That's why you have to sacrifice your boys and your girls, your sons and your daughters, and your wealth and your treasure and your labor and your life and your liberty for them to get fat, for them to get rich, for them to get more power. That's the most anti-American set of beliefs and ideas I can ever see propounded or propagated. And I take Hegseth wants to talk about no quarter. Well, I give no quarter to those traitors of the American constitutional republic who disguise their betrayal as patriotism.